Billionaire watches black girl dance with his disabled daughter. What happens next will shock you. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the playground, but it was the scene unfolding beneath the giant oak tree that truly had spectators holding their breath. A little girl, her dark skin glowing, twisted and swayed, moving with a rhythm that seemed almost otherworldly. The music echoed through the air, but it was her spirit so free, so fierce that captured every gaze around. Parents whispered excitedly, children clapped, and in a shadowy corner, a billionaire watched intensely. His eyes locked onto her, a mixture of awe and something else, something dark and uncertain, but it wasn't just any billionaire. This man was known for his ruthless business moves and his tragic life filled with loss. Rumors flitted about, his daughter, confined to a wheelchair since birth, had never danced. But here she was, eyes whispering encouragement as the girl danced fiercely, her laughter carrying through the air like a lifeline. It was a blissful moment. Backward glances were shared, smiles ignited in the air until the gasps began. She stumbled, a misstep that echoed in the sudden silence that blanketed the crowd. All eyes were now on the billionaire, the father, his expression twisting from shock to panic. He surged forward, as if drawn by an invisible thread, and panic gripped the crowd's heart. Was he rushing to protect his daughter or to claim the dancer? Maybe both. Kids were still and parents held their breath as his footsteps thudded on the pavement, heavy with intent. At that moment, electricity crackled in the air. The little dancer paused, eyes wide, sensing the shift. A collective murmur floated through the bystanders. It was palpable, thick like the summer air. What is going to happen? Someone whispered anxiously. The tension was suffocating, faces turned toward the duo, waiting for that moment when everything would tip. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. There it was, poised on the brink of fate. The little girl's laughter hung in the air but transformed into something nervous as she met the billionaire's eyes. His stare was fierce, driven by emotions far beyond protectiveness. The crowd waited for something, an outburst, a revelation, or perhaps a heart-wrenching decision. What was going through his mind? What secrets lurked beneath his confident exterior? And as he reached out, just inches away from her, what would he do next? Would he embrace her talent or attempt to silence her spirit? The air thickened with anticipation. Everyone's heart raced, pulses quickened, and hope seemed to dance in the distance, tangled in uncertainty. The billionaire's hand hovered just inches from the dancer, and the world around them faded into a suffocating silence. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in the charged atmosphere, as onlookers leaned in, desperate for a glimpse of this pivotal moment. "Daddy?" The soft voice of his daughter sliced through the hush like a knife. She jolted in her wheelchair, her big, innocent eyes searching for reassurance. It was a painful reminder of her limitations, but it also ignited a fire within the billionaire, one he hardly recognized. In that instant, the dance unraveled before him, weaving together two lives that existed in stark contrast. If he reached for the dancer, would it mean abandoning his daughter? As the little girl's laughter faded into a tremor of confusion, he felt the weight of the decision crush him. What should he do? What did he want? The billionaire's chest tightened. He wanted his daughter to experience joy. He wanted her to feel alive, even if it was through someone else's spirit. The dancer's movements had awakened something dormant within him, the desire to connect, to reach out not only to the girl but also to his own daughter, anchored and deprived of so much. But the crowd was still. Every eye was on him. Guilt twisted his stomach. It was not just about him anymore. The whole world seemed to hinge on this fleeting moment. He looked down at his daughter, her gaze unwavering, imploring, but also filled with a bittersweet understanding. The brilliant glint in her eye whispered, "It's okay, Dad. Let her shine." Could he really allow that? Could he risk it all for a chance at redemption, for both the little dancer and his own child? The tension hung heavy in the air, like a tightrope about to snap. Then, as if electrified by hope, he lunged forward, reaching for the dancer instead. He grasped her hand, pulling her closer. "Dance with us," he murmured, his voice shaking with the weight of his emotion. Gasps erupted around them, disbelief tangled with shock. Almost instinctively, the other little girl joined in, her face lighting up, bright and carefree. Together, they began a new rhythm, both girls awash in joy as the wind tugged playfully at their hair, but the billionaire's sense of relief was short-lived. An angry shout pierced the laughter, breaking the spell. "What do you think you're doing?" A man emerged from the crowd, eyes blazing with rage. "You're going to ruin her." His voice dripped with contempt. The laughter froze, faces turned in shock, confusion cascading through the park like ripples in water. The billionaire's heart raced, adrenaline surging through his veins. Who was this man? What did he want? The little dancer's joy turned to fear, her grip on his hand tightening. As the man took a menacing step forward, a cold chill swept over the playground. Thoughts raced. What would he do now? Protect the girls or confront this unpredictable threat? The air pulsed with tension, hearts pounding like thunder, and the golden sunlight faded into shadows. What secrets were about to unravel, fueled by rage and desperation? The stage was set for a showdown, and choices made now could shatter many lives. As the crowd braced for what was to come, the true battle was just beginning. What shocking revelations would spill forth next? The man loomed closer, his voice a battle cry against the innocence swaying before him. "You're playing with fire," he shouted, eyes darting between the girls and the billionaire, like a hawk ready to swoop in for a kill. The tension in the air thickened, almost palpable, vibrating with the audience's collective anxiety. The billionaire clenched his jaw, feeling an urge to protect the girls surge through him. "What's your problem?" he forced out, a mix of confusion and anger curling around his words. The onlookers shifted uneasily, their whispers swelling to a cacophony, a mash of judgment and fear. "He's ruining her chance. You don't know what you're doing." The man's chest heaved with the weight of his words, his eyes flaring with intensity. The little dancer pressed herself closer to the billionaire, fear cascading over her face like a dark cloud. "Ruining? I just wanted to help her. You're just another rich guy trying to play savior. You think this is a game?" His voice rose, drawing more eyes, amplifying the suffocating pressure resting on the billionaire's shoulders. Behind him, he felt his daughter's small hand slip through his, uncertainty clouding her innocent gaze. She glanced at the spatting adults, processing the turmoil that surrounded her. The vibrant sparkle that once danced in her eyes began to dim. The crowd spiraled into whispers, a ripple of disapproval washing over everyone. The lofty pillars of privilege fell into question. Was the billionaire to be treated as a hero or a fool? Enough. He felt the words clawing their way out. "I'm not ruining anything. I want the girls to dance. To experience joy." His heart pounded, a surge of defiance coursing through him. Each pulse seemed to echo in the charged silence, a challenge thrown into the arena. The man's laughter was derisive, slicing through the air like ice. "Joy? You think just because you have money, you can buy happiness for her? You have no idea what she's been through." A provocative smirk flared across his face, igniting new sparks of confusion in the crowd. "Then tell me." The billionaire took a step closer, narrowing the distance. "Explain. What could possibly justify scaring this girl? What's your stake in this?" The little dancer squeezed his hand, grounding him in her fragile courage. The man hesitated, a flicker of hesitation breaking through his anger. "You'll learn the hard way, rich man. The world isn't as simple as you think. She's been hurt before, betrayed. And you could be just another name on her list." Gasps rippled through the audience, and a collective shiver coursed through the crowd. Shocking revelations teetered on the edge. What did this man know? The atmosphere frizzed with secrets waiting to be unveiled. Just then, a chorus of voices erupted from a nearby group. "What's happening over here?" An authoritative figure emerged, their badge shining against the sunlight. It was a police officer, stepping into the clash like a guardian angel. The billionaire's heart raced as his eyes darted back to the man, fury battling with fear. Would this officer de-escalate the situation or inflame an already volatile powder keg? Dread twisted in his gut. The answers lay teetering on the edge of confrontation. Would their true destinies intertwine, or would the past shadows trap them all? He knew one thing: the stakes had just escalated, and everything was about to change. What truths would this officer uncover, and how far would the billionaire go to protect the innocence he so desperately wanted to safeguard from the world? The police officer stepped forward, narrowing his eyes at the scene unfolding before him. "What is going on here?" he asked, voice firm yet edged with caution. The tension buzzed around them like static electricity, raising the hairs on the back of everyone's neck. The man, emboldened by the sudden authority, pointed a shaking finger at the billionaire. "This rich guy thinks he can fix everything with a checkbook. He's not helping her. He's just more trouble." His voice trembled with the weight of unspent rage, echoing in the silence that followed. The officer surveyed the crowd. People fidgeted, their expressions a mixture of anxiety and excitement, as if they were waiting for a bomb to detonate. His gaze fell on the little dancer, whose small body trembled next to the billionaire. "Is that true?" the officer asked, turning his attention back to the billionaire. The weight of authority rested heavily on the billionaire's shoulders. Could he really articulate the truth? "No. I'm trying to give her a chance. I'm not the enemy here," he insisted, forcing the words through gritted teeth. "I only want to help her get into performing, a chance at a better life." "Better life? By dragging her into your world? You're out of touch." The man barked, anger still burning in his eyes. "You have no idea what she has been through. What these girls face every day." A commotion erupted from behind the officer as an old woman, clutching a faded poster with discolored edges, pushed through the crowd. "That's right. You don't know nothing. You think money buys happiness, but it ain't that easy." Her voice cracked with age and weight, mirroring the doubts threading through the crowd. The officer turned, agitated, as murmurs swept through. All right. Let us all take a step back." He held up a hand, trying to quell the rising storm. But the billionaire suddenly felt desperate. "No, please. If you just let us speak to hear their stories enough." The officer snapped, his patience wearing thin. "I'm here to ensure everyone is safe. I need to know if anyone is in trouble. So, let us start with you." He pointed to the little dancer, whose wide eyes reflected fear and uncertainty. "Are you okay?" Her lips quivered, unsure of what to say, then she stepped closer to the billionaire. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. A lifeline in the chaotic turmoil swirling around them. The officer shifted, his gaze softening slightly. "And what about you?" He directed his question to the man still seething with anger. "What's your stake in all of this?" The man swallowed hard, the fight in him wavering. "I've seen too many girls like her used and tossed aside. The world doesn't care about them. This man just sees a dollar sign." His frustration nearly crumbled into desperation. Silence enveloped the group, tension thick enough to cut with a knife. The atmosphere churned with unspoken fears and shared trauma, each person carrying their invisible burdens. The officer was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing the implications of everything he had witnessed. "I have to ask, does anyone need help?" His voice turned serious, cutting through the swirling uncertainty like a beacon of hope against a brewing storm. Just then, there was a loud crash from the entrance of the plaza. Everyone turned sharply, startled, as an object flew through the air and landed at their feet. The crowd gasped, reverberations of shock rippling through the audience. What had just shattered the fragile peace? Eyes darted to the source, minds racing with dread. The billionaire's heart sank as he realized, the past was not finished with them yet. As fear gripped him, he wondered, was this the moment everything would unravel, or was it a new beginning, one that would finally draw out the shocking truths hiding in the dark? The crowd erupted into chaos. Gasps turned into muffled screams as people instinctively took a step back, eyes darting in panic. The object that had crashed at their feet was a heavy glass vase, now shattered, fragments glimmering like dangerous confetti against the cobblestones. Who did that? The officer surged forward, scanning the mass of faces, searching for any sign of the instigator. A sense of urgency layered his voice. Everyone, stay calm. But calm was the last thing the scene exuded. People jostled against one another, claiming safety in numbers, and the once captivated audience transformed into a whirlwind of anxiety. Fear clawed at the billionaire's insides. He locked eyes with the little dancer, who stood frozen beside him, her small frame trembling. I don't know, she stammered, those wide eyes trembling under the weight of chaos. Her vulnerability ignited something inside him. Please, just help me. Hey! The officer called out again, trying to regain control over the situation. We need to identify who threw that. It's essential that we get this resolved. But just as he turned to survey the crowd, another commotion erupted from the back. A tall figure stepped out of the chaos, a woman with fiery red hair and a determined look stitched into her features. Breathing heavily, she shouted above the noise, "Enough of this. Who's trying to hurt these girls?" All eyes shifted to her, drawn by her fierce presence. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Who are you? The officer demanded, straightening up. What do you know about this? I know there's more going on here than just a dance and a rich man trying to save the day. She countered, her voice strong yet laced with fear. I've seen too many people like him, lurking around and pretending they care while they only want something for themselves. The crowd murmured in agreement, divided and uncertain. The billionaire felt the grip of doubt tightening around him. Was he really perceived that way? Had his good intentions warped into something sinister in their eyes? My daughter is here with me, he proclaimed, desperation rising as he waved his hand, pointing to the girl beside him. I'm not just some wealthy man. I want to protect her. Protect her from what? Living? The red-haired woman's eyes burned with defiance. Or is it from people who genuinely want to help? What I want, the officer interrupted, drawing attention back to himself, is to understand this better. You, he pointed to the billionaire. What were you planning for her? What role did you have in this? The tension snapped in the air, the crowd still holding its collective breath. The little dancer looked up at him, searching for guidance. He felt the weight of her gaze, one that slipped into his heart like a dagger. I thought I could give her an opportunity to shine, to make something of herself in a world that often casts aside girls like her, he declared, determination making his voice steadier. But right now, all I see is confusion and fear. I'm not her enemy. The woman scoffed, crossing her arms. That's what they all say. But when reality hits, a cry pierced through the chaos, sudden and sharp. A boy who had been standing at the edge of the crowd staggered backward, clutching his side. I didn't do anything. I swear. It wasn't me. His expression twisted in panic, as all eyes darted toward him. What is going on? The officer shouted, rushing toward the boy. In that moment, uncertainty tipped again. More questions loomed. Who was behind the vase? Why did this boy look so frightened? The ground felt like it was crumbling underfoot, shaking the very foundation of their unraveling situation. The crowd was at a boiling point. What would happen next? Would the truth emerge, revealing the shadows that loomed over this moment? Then, from the back, someone shouted the name of a past scandal connected to the billionaire, sending ripples of shock through the crowd. As curiosity and suspicion melded, the real drama was just beginning. What secrets were waiting to explode, and how would they impact the little dancer's future? The boy's panicked voice echoed through the crowd, vibrating with a desperate energy that drew everyone's focus. He backed up against a wall of people, fear etched into his sharp features. They could see the blood seeping through his fingers, staining his shirt. A collective gasp rippled through the audience, like a wave crashing upon an unsuspecting shore. What happened? The officer shouted again, urgency transforming his voice into a bark. He knelt beside the boy, examining the wound. A jagged cut glimmered under the fading sunlight as it pulsed like an unwelcome heartbeat. I swear, I didn't do anything. I was just watching. The boy's eyes darted, wild and unfocused. I didn't throw it. I swear. Around them, the chaos only intensified. Murmurs erupted. Someone got hurt. Is it serious? What if it's a trick? The crowd surged forward and backward, a chaotic tide of confusion. The little dancer clutched the billionaire's hand, her small fingers going cold. He glanced down at her, trying to weigh the options. Stay by me, he urged softly, sensing the tension building. He wanted to shelter her from the torrent of panic enveloping them. Whatever happens, I'll keep you safe. But the truth was, he could feel his foundation crumbling, just like that vase, 1,000 shards of trust and intention scattering into the abyss of distrust. An uneasy silence cloaked the audience, every pair of eyes glued to the unfolding drama. Please, let us just clear the area. The officer ordered, taking charge. Whoever threw that vase is still dangerous. Red-haired woman stepped forward, defiance etched into her contours. And what if it's not over? What if they hurt more than just a vase? Her words hung heavy in the air like an electric charge. The audience shifted, inhaling sharply, sensing the possibility that the storm was far from over. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the suffocating shadows at the back, a man clad in dark clothing, laced with tension. His eyes flickered through the crowd, landing on the billionaire and the terrified dancer beside him. He stepped forward, asserting himself as the murmur began to morph into a frenzy of uncertainty. What do you want? The officer barked, positioning himself between the man and the little dancer. I'm looking for something, the man replied, the tone casual, but his intensity sparked danger. Or someone. The tension surged. Who? The billionaire demanded. What are you talking about? I believe she knows, he nodded sharply toward the little dancer. She's more involved than you think. Fear gripped the billionaire like a vice. He turned to the girl, confusion morphing into dread as her eyes widened. No, she doesn't know anything. He shot back, chest tightening. She's just a child. But the man's grin was sharp, a predator scenting vulnerability. That's where you're wrong. Trust me, the truth has a way of surfacing. A flash of movement caught the corner of the billionaire's eye. The boy, still crumpled on the ground, clutched something small and metallic in his trembling hand. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, as if something inside him had snapped, pinning his fate to the outcome. Don't move. The officer shouted, training his eyes on the boy, but it was too late. The boy's hand shot up, the metallic glimmer catching the light, heartbeats stilling in anticipation. As the crowd quivered with disbelief, the potential for danger hung thick in the air. What was the boy holding? And what deeper truths could possibly weave through the threads of fear binding them together? Would the shadows that had lurked around the little dancer finally break the surface? The answers were closer, yet riper for danger. The night was just beginning. The boy's hand trembled as he raised the metallic object higher, revealing a glinting blade, a makeshift weapon born from desperation. Gasps erupted from the crowd, a wave of astonishment and fear that rippled outward, pushing back against the feverish chaos. Drop it! The officer yelled, his voice slicing through the murmur like a knife. The tension was palpable, electric, threatening to snap under the weight of uncertainty, but the boy didn't drop it. His chest heaved, breaths fast and shallow. "I didn't mean to," he choked, tears swimming in his wild eyes. "I was just trying to protect myself." The billionaire instinctively stepped forward, heart pounding in his ears. "You're not in danger anymore," he said, his voice steady despite the storm within. "Put it down, please. We can help you." For a brief moment, their eyes locked, two worlds colliding. The boy's fierce desperation met the billionaire's quiet resolve. Suddenly, the dark-clad man took a step closer, his expression suddenly serious. "This boy doesn't realize what he's unleashing," he said, his voice low but laced with venom. "He's playing with fire." The little dancer tightened her grip on the billionaire's hand. "What does he want?" she whispered, fear creeping in. He squeezed her tiny fingers, trying to anchor them both amidst the turmoil. "Control," the man replied, his gaze piercing through the haze of panic. "The boy holds a piece of something much bigger. Something that can change everything." A shockwave of realization passed through the crowd, igniting murmurs of disbelief. "Why don't you just tell us what is going on?" The officer pressed, a steely look in his eyes. The man chuckled, a hollow sound that sent shivers down spines. "It's never that simple. Truths aren't always meant to be known. Some are best left buried in the dark." The boy's eyes darted, confusion spilling into panic. I just found it. I didn't know." As if pulled by an unseen force, he took a step forward, the blade trembling violently in his grasp. "I thought I was protecting. I didn't want to hurt anyone." A fleeting look of sympathy crossed the officer's face, and then he raised his voice, urgency surging. "Back away, everyone. We don't know what he might do." At that, the crowd recoiled, a wave of bodies moving in tandem, as the shadows of worry escalated. The little dancer, too small yet so full of emotion, pressed closer to the billionaire, her eyes wide, reflecting the flicker of fear but also a flicker of something else, bravery. "Don't let him hurt you," she whispered, and her innocence pierced the gathering storm. "Nothing will happen to you," the billionaire promised her softly, placing himself in front of her, a barrier between the unknown and her fragile spirit. As the boy let out a cry, the metallic flash of the blade caught the dying light one final time, holding the crowd in a spell of horror. And then, everything exploded. A deafening crash echoed through the night, something sharp slicing through the tension, followed by the shouts of confusion. What had shattered this tense moment of fragile humanity? With the chaos erupting around him and adrenaline surging, the billionaire's mind raced. Was this about to spiral completely out of control? As the crowd erupted in panic, it became clear, the night had taken a dark turn, and the stakes were rising. What was the boy really protecting? And who was truly behind the veil of shadows that could upend everything they knew? A new truth waited in the wings, just beyond the chaos. What lay beneath the surface, buried deep in the dark? The air thickened with chaos, suffocating in its intensity. Distant shouts morphed into a cacophony of fear, but amid the turmoil, a single truth stood out: something crucial was unraveling right before their eyes. The boy, still clutching the blade, staggered backward, eyes wide with fear, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't want any of this." His voice broke, the raw pain reverberating through the sea of faces painted in confusion and dread. Behind him, the officer was already moving, trying to sidestep the panic swarming around. "Stay calm," he shouted, hands raised. But in that moment, the crowd was anything but calm. People pushed and shoved, desperate for space, desperate for safety. The little dancer clutched tighter to the billionaire's hand, her small body vibrating with the energy of terror and disbelief. "We have to do something," she urged, glancing up at him with wide, unblinking eyes. "I'm not letting anything happen to you," he assured her, his voice low and firm. But his heart raced, each beat fueled by mounting fear for everyone caught in the embrace of this madness. Suddenly, the dark-clad man spoke again, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. "This isn't just about the boy anymore. If he doesn't put that down, we could all pay the price. The billionaire's gaze flickered to the boy, who, trembling, held the blade with both hands. The glinting metal reflected the flickering streetlights, striking a chord of urgency within him. Listen to me. He called out, hoping to reach the boy through the haze of panic. You don't have to be afraid. You're not alone in this. But just as those words left his mouth, the boy's body tensed, a mix of fear and defiance igniting in his eyes. You don't know what it's like. You don't know anything. That's when the explosion hit, a flash of light accompanied by the deep, resounding boom that echoed through the night, shaking the ground beneath them. Gasps emerged from the crowd, and the scene transformed into a whirlwind of screams and frantic movements as people stumbled over each other in a panicked scramble to escape. The billionaire instinctively shielded the little dancer as debris rained down, fragments of shattered glass twinkling like dark stars in the air. Fear clawed at his insides. What was happening? Why the hell did that happen? He shouted over the sounds of chaos, but the panic had erupted to a full-blown frenzy. Heads turned, eyes searched, but no one had answers. The officer crouched down, assessing the scene, trying to regain control, but it was slipping through his fingers. They've found us. The dark-clad man hissed, almost too quietly for anyone but the billionaire to hear. A flash of recognition ignited in the billionaire's mind. The words twisted through him, igniting an ember of a chilling thought. This was not just a random act of violence. The boy's cry tore through the air again, this time mingled with a plea, I just wanted to protect myself. A wave of clarity crashed over the billionaire in the storm of chaos. He took a step forward, toward the boy, as if drawn by some invisible force, his voice finding strength. We can find a way out of this together. You hold the power. In that tense moment, as darkness cloaked their surroundings, a flicker of hope sparked within the boy's eyes. But before he could respond, a figure emerged from the smoke, cloaked in shadows, a sinister smile creeping upon his lips. And then, everything shifted again. What was that figure after? What deal had been made before this catastrophic night unfolded? Some truths were rising from the shadows, and the answers would come at a price. What lay ahead loomed with uncertainty, and the stakes had never been higher. The figure stepped closer, the thin veil of smoke swirling around him, barely obscuring his face. The sinister smile twisted into something more menacing, filled with a satisfaction that sent chills down the billionaire's spine. He couldn't shake the feeling that this man was the embodiment of their fears, a harbinger of darkness. Ah, the boy with the blade and the king of silver spoons, he taunted, eyes glinting with a dangerous glee. You'll soon learn that the past always catches up. Isn't that right? His voice was silky smooth, seducing the crowd with dread. A few onlookers froze, mouths agape, as they turned to listen. The officer tightened his grip on his radio, barking orders into the chaos, but the words sounded hollow against the backdrop of fear. Stay back. The officer yelled, positioning himself firmly between the boy and the figure, as if he could act as a shield. But the man just laughed, the sound cold and sharp as glass. Protect him? He scoffed, sending tremors of doubt through the breaths around them. You think a badge can stop what's coming? This is just the beginning. At those words, tension coiled tighter in the air. The boy's grip on the blade faltered, hesitating for a brief moment, caught between resolve and despair. The billionaire sensed the shift. This was not the time for hesitation. He's not your enemy. He pleaded, stepping forward, heart racing at the thought of losing them both in this maelstrom. You have to trust me. But before the boy could answer, a sickening crack shattered the air, a detonating sound that seemed both distant and too close. A nearby streetlight flickered off, plunging them into a half-darkness, punctuated by the echoes of horror from what felt like a war zone. People screamed, and the energy of panic swept through the crowd again, driving them like waves against the shore, crashing against each other in desperation. The little dancer clutched the billionaire's hand with fierce steadfastness, her small voice lost among the chaos. Daddy! What is happening? She cried, her innocent eyes wide with terror. "Just, hold on tight. I won't let go," he promised, feeling his own bravery falter. He cast a quick glance around, searching for an exit they could rush to. But the looming figure seemed to block every avenue of escape. "You can't hide, you know." The dark-clad man stepped back into the shadows, his voice melodic and chilling. "This is your show now. The boy and the power he doesn't even understand. You all are just pieces in this game." The crowd swayed with collective uncertainty, glancing between the boy, the billionaire, and this sinister puppeteer. Fear suffocated them, each passing second felt like an eternity spiraling towards some terrifying conclusion. Then, without warning, the boy lunged towards the figure, blade glistening in the flickering light. Gasps splintered the air, confusion gripping the audience as the boy fought past his fear. But just as he raised the weapon, the figure laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Foolish child," he hissed. "The real threat isn't here." The moment stretched, and the billionaire's stomach dropped. He sensed dread spiraling tighter. Hidden dangers lurked in the shadows and unseen motives tangled into a web that ensnared them all. "Stop!" the billionaire shouted, adrenaline coursing through him. But the darkness had already begun to seep into the cracks of their reality. What lay ahead promised to pull them deeper into a revelation they weren't prepared for. Would the boy's outburst provoke salvation or doom them all? The stakes had changed, and the figure's haunting laugh echoed in the swirling chaos. Darkness was only the beginning, and the end awaited in those unyielding shadows. The chaos continued to churn around them, panic spilling into every face and heart. But in the midst of all this confusion, something shifted within the billionaire. A resolve ignited within his soul. He had watched thrill and freedom burst forth from the little dancer, seen the boy's desperation become a weapon, and felt the weight of countless shadows pressing in. This was his moment to act. "Everyone, listen to me," he shouted, his voice rising above the clamor. Eyes shifted toward him, witnessing a man stirred by purpose as he turned to the boy, still gripping the blade with trembling hands. "You're not alone. If we can come together, we can make it through this." The boy's eyes were wide, filled with uncertainty, but internally, a flicker of hope ignited. The tension in the air became electric, as the crowd strained to hear, to understand. Would they rally together against the chaos, or remain puppets in the shadow's grip? As the ominous figure continued to smirk, the officer seized that moment and stepped forward. "You want to hurt someone? You'll have to go through me," he declared, a daunting wall against the rising tide of fear. He was holding his ground now. "You're not going to intimidate these people anymore." The dark figure hesitated, curiosity flashing before he scoffed. "You think courage is enough?" He eyed the crowd, a chilling smile breaking across his face. "Bravery falls to ashes in the end." Ignoring him, the billionaire took a deep breath, shifting his gaze to the little dancer at his side. "You're brave. Your spirit is what the world needs. Dance with me." Despite the pulsating fear, the little dancer glanced up with newfound determination. A smile broke through the shadows, and as if answering his call, she stepped forward. "You'll protect me, right?" Her voice was a fragile whisper, but it resonated fiercely within him. "I promise," he replied, a bond forging through shared vulnerability. With that, he took her hand firmly, knowing that this was the catalyst for hope. "All right, everyone. Let us show them our strength, together." The crowd shifted, a murmur of confusion broke the initial wave of uncertainty as the little dancer began to dance. Her movement was graceful and alive, everything about her was pure. One by one, people began to join in. A woman, a man, a child, they stepped out from behind their fears and danced along, freedom overcoming their angst, souls lit up in this singular moment. The dark-clad man's expression morphed from amusement to distress. "What are you doing?" he shouted, fury bursting from every word. "You're just making it easier for them to take you down." "No." The billionaire shouted back, his spirit growing stronger. You've underestimated the power of connection, the strength that comes from supporting one another. As if compelled by some invisible force, people surged forward. The joy, the laughter, it morphed into a wave that rippled through the crowd. Suddenly, the officer's radio crackled to life, calling in reinforcements. Things were changing. The tide had shifted, and the shadows felt less overwhelming. Just then, the boy lowered the blade, staring at it as if it had begun to burn in his hands. "Can we really survive this?" he asked, sincerity pouring from his voice. "Can I choose a different path?" "Yes." The billionaire encouraged, his heart swelling with emotion. "You don't have to fight. You can choose to dance through your pain and make something beautiful from it." Gazes locked between him and the boy, the former recipient of fear matched with hope ignited within both of them. Finally, the boy nodded and let the blade slip from his fingers. It clattered to the ground, a sound that echoed like a liberating declaration. The darkness surrounding them seemed to wane, replaced by the rhythm of joyful connection. The approaching sirens began to weave into the music. The officer yelled to make way, the crowd shifting to let them through. The dark-clad man realized he was losing control, anger radiating off him like heat. But now, he was outnumbered. In that defining moment, the little dancer spun faster, each movement creating a whirlwind of hope. It swept through the crowd as they cheered, the joy summoning strength even in the shadows. As the sirens got closer, the figure seethed in fury before disappearing into the growing distance, swallowed by the newfound light. Hope radiated, bright and unyielding, binding everyone present. As officers arrived, surrounding the scene, the crowd didn't stand alone but embraced their strength together. The animosity began to dissolve, chaos reclaiming spaces, and within just minutes, barrier fences grew flimsy against this united front. They found their footing, reaffirmed in purpose against the turmoil they had faced. "Thank you for believing," the little dancer said, looking up at the billionaire with sincere gratitude. He knelt down, brushing a gentle hand against her cheek. "You saved me too. You showed me I can protect joy." And as the sky deepened into twilight, the playground transformed. Pieces of fear shredded away, replaced by warmth and resilience. They all looked toward the horizon together, the future open wide before them, a canvas awaiting their footsteps. The darkness had been faced, and they knew now that together, they could keep it from returning. The fairy tale night echoed with laughter, swirling toward tomorrows filled with promise. So, if you found yourself part of this wild journey, there is something you must do now. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this content coming. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this powerful ending, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this tale unfolded. Your support means everything, and this community thrives on your engagement.